Okay, so hello everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth in our ASEAN teacher webinar series. It's great to have everybody here this afternoon. My name is David Guarini Gil-Martin. I'm from the British Council here in Hanoi, Vietnam. And it's great to see so many people. I can see the number of participants ticking up every few seconds. So welcome to this, the third in our series. Today we're looking at how to teach listening. And before we start and before I introduce our panel, please do, if you say in the chat, great to see so many people already saying hello in the chat. So please say hello and say where you're from across our region as you're joining. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. Feel free during the webinar to keep your cameras on, but please try and keep your microphones on mute during the main session so we can hear the speakers, the main speakers. But please do share your questions and any comments in the chat. So it's great to see everyone saying hello now in the chat box. And please, as we go through the webinar, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A, and then we should have about 10 minutes towards the end to be able to address some of your questions. My colleagues, Maria and Book, will help me with that. I can see we're up to 150 participants already, which is great. And also note that this session will be recorded, okay? So note that, and we'll also be sharing that on our channels, our British Council Vietnam YouTube channel and the British Council Indonesia YouTube channel. So if you or your colleagues miss the webinar, you can watch it again later on. Without too much further ado, I'll start to introduce our panel. So hopefully you can see them all there now. So as I said, my name's David. I'm here in Vietnam, and I'm going to go around our countries. So I'm going to start with Indonesia. Selamat sore, Dian.
Sore, David. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Can you introduce yourself first, Dian? You're on mute, Dian.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. Greeting from Indonesia. I see many friends from Indonesia. I currently teach English in secondary high school, SMPN for Bandung, West Java. It's good to be here, David. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I can see Nina also from Bandung. So Selamat sore, Nina, and everybody else from Indonesia. From Indonesia, we'll go to Thailand. So Sawadee Krap to K and B.
Hello guys, everybody.
Can you introduce yourselves?
Okay, start for me, yeah. Hi everybody. I'm Kay, and I'm an educational supervisor working at Primary Educational Service Area Office 1, Uthai Thani, Thailand. And there are 78 schools and about 75 primary English teachers in my area. And my responsibility is supervision, like English language teaching and learning, and working on the research with the teachers. And I'm not alone. I'm with B from Thailand, and we're happy to join this webinar and hope to share our practice and learn from you. And let's meet teacher B.
Hi everyone. I'm B. Rosalyn Gamakam. I'm a primary English teacher at Wat Donwai School, Uthai Thani Province in Thailand. I teach student primary 1 to primary 6. Today, I'm so happy to be here to share my experience with young learner before and during a COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah.
Great, thanks B, thanks K. And last but not least, we go to Vietnam. So I'll say Xin Chào, Mayang. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Ding Thị Mang, and I'm a lecturer at Foreign Languages Department, Vinh University. I'm also a trainer in courses organized by National Language Project and Vinh University with the aim to improve the quality of teachers at Vietnamese primary, secondary, and high school as well. So today it's my great honor to be a part of our webinar and share with you how we can organize an effective listening lesson. So hope you can enjoy today's webinar. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mang. That's great. And also, I'm looking in the chat. I see lots of people from Indonesia, from Thailand, and from Vietnam. But also, I say Mingalaba to any colleagues, to any teaching colleagues who are joining us from Myanmar as well. I think please say hello in the chat if you're here today. Okay, so we're going to move on and start our conversation about teaching listening and hear ideas from our panel of expert teachers. And also, before we get into the questions, at the end of today, we're going to introduce you to a new free course from the British Council, which looks at how to teach listening. So we're going to share a little bit more about that at the end, and hopefully Kay and B, I knew I'd make that mistake. Kay and B are going to try and show you how to enroll on the course using the Teaching English website. My colleague Maria has just put the link in there, and you can also see the QR code on the screen as well. So we'll share that with you towards the end. And we'll, as I said, we'll also have some time for some Q&A as well towards the end. But back to our discussion. So first of all, as I say, today we're focusing on looking at teaching listening. And my first question for everybody is, as teachers, what do you think are some of the challenges that you face when teaching listening, either for you as a teacher or for your students as well as learners of English? Let's start with Mayang. Can you share some of your experiences first, Mayang?
Okay. I'm happy to be the first person to share about the challenges that teachers and also learners are facing when teaching and learning listening school. And while most of my students say that listening activities or listening tests always create high levels of anxiety and stress that can interfere with comprehension. Sometimes they know the words but get the wrong sense, or sometimes they know the word in written form but not the oral version. Phonetic variation of a word such as like reduction, assimilation, elision, linking sounds might mislead them, or sometimes they know the words, but they feel so anxious and under pressure to fill in the listening activity as well. Or in other situations, they know the words, but they cannot remember immediately when they hear, or they cannot understand clearly as speakers in listening tapes or videos are speaking so fast. Well, unlike a reading text that is at the learner's control, a listening text is constantly moving and at for variable speeds that often cannot be controlled by the listener. So they can be slow sometimes, they can be fast, or they are not allowed to listen to recordings again. So that's the reason why I say it's quite challenging for language learners to find appropriate listening materials, design suitable listening activities, and encourage students to overcome their fear of listening.
Okay.
And one more thing is like in Vietnam, the time for listening lesson is quite short to fully develop student listening skill, and they do not have the habit of listening to English every day at home outside the classroom context. So which significantly affect the quality of teaching and listening, this important communicative skill as well. So, the more time they expose to English, the better listening skill they can achieve, right? So here just some main problems that English teachers and learners are facing in terms of listening skill.
Thanks, Maya. I think it's interesting that you mentioned as well about developing listening skills and how we can do that both in the class and also at home as well. And we can come back to that later on when we look at some possible solutions or strategies. Yeah. Let's move to Dian. Dian, you teach secondary students. So can you share some of the challenges you have,
Okay.
either for yourself as a teacher or for your students as well as learners?
Teenagers. Okay. In my experience, teaching English is actually fun, and the students are usually eager to try to complete the task, and they usually concentrate fully on the audio so they can complete the task. However, there are some challenges that we face when it comes to teach English. Here I have tried to collect some of the common problems that my colleagues also perhaps find in their teaching life. So the first one is we need to provide extra time to find or recording suitable listening materials to our learning objectives, because our official course book doesn't count CDs or listening materials. And then the second one is we need to make extra effort in setting the audio device, additional audio device, because most of public schools in Indonesia don't have listening facilities. Some schools are probably lucky enough to have listening facilities, and they have complete a course book with CDs. But for common public school, we need to bring our own speakers, and sometimes we have to try. When we try the listening material at home, everything works just fine. But then when we come to the classrooms, one or other thing goes wrong, and then the students cannot hear the audio. And then the third one, we both the teachers and the students are often intimidated by the pronunciation, just like Maya said. Yeah. We are intimidated by the pace and then the pronunciation, the accent of native speakers. So we tend to avoid teaching things that we are not too familiar with. And then the last one, perhaps we don't have enough exposure to a natural listening environment. So some parts of Indonesia, they are very popular and they receive many foreign visitors. So they meet a lot of foreigners. But here in Bandung, we don't normally see foreigners. So perhaps some of my students think it is rather insignificant to their lives because they don't meet foreigners very often. So these are the common problems that we face in Indonesia. And our students are usually very insecure. Teenagers tend to be insecure and they don't have enough confidence to speak or to listen to native speakers. So I think these are the common challenge that we find in the classroom.
I think it's really good as well, Dian, that you mentioned about exposure to non-native speakers or to for example, in your context, to non-Indonesian speakers, because the people that they may meet maybe not native speakers, but they might be visitors from another country in ASEAN, for example. So somebody from Thailand or someone from Vietnam or someone from Singapore that's speaking English. So again, there's different ways to think about that as well. That's another thing we can think about when we think about the point, as you and Mayang have both mentioned, about the challenges of different accents or the different pace of language. Let's move now to, thanks, Dian. Let's move now from secondary to primary. So B and Kay, can you share some of the challenges you have, particularly when teaching primary learners? Very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, since we talked about, non-native speakers from Dian in Indonesia, right? So I think the challenge, I think we have like this, we are on the same page right now. And the challenge is that English is a heterogeneous language with multiple norms and diverse grammar. So to be really proficient in English today, our students have to be multi-dialectual. Much of the communication in English happens among multilingual speakers in, like non-native interactions. So take our webinar for an example, right? We have ASEAN teachers, like listening to the talk right now. And so the demand of teaching, listening, comprehension for understanding native English speakers is, like only native speakers would be misconception, right? So teaching by using only commercial listening texts of native-like accents or standard English can be a shortcoming. Like if we're thinking about preparing students for the future real life situations, So I think that to prepare our students for the pluralization of the user and form of the English language is our priority right now. And if we have a look at the CEFR 2018 on listening, there are some kind of changes right now. And the C1 level is relevant to the understanding of a wide range, using the recorded and broadcast audio material that include non-standard usage between the speakers. So when we're talking about the audio materials that, not only standard English, teacher B and I are, like in the primary level. Her students are not C1 proficient users. B has been working on her online class listening material that includes non-native like accents, her own accent, localized accents, or modeling language. So I'm going to B and how she see her challenges. Okay, B.
Thank you, PK. For me, I think teaching young learner with limited background of English language and vocabulary bank is one of the challenge in teaching primary level. The student don't have supportive environment and suitable learning material for learning English at home. For example, when the student at school, I can monitor and I can understand the student. But during the pandemic, it's difficult for me to share listening text. So I have to design the video, and when I use the commercial listening material online, I find that the students don't understand the meaning. If they can't transfer the meaning of the input, they can produce the output. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I'm really glad you made that connection between the input and the output B. That's very, very important. Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that, both of you. So now we've outlined some of the challenges, both for our learners and also for ourselves as teachers. Let's turn to my next question, which is, so what do we do? How do we try to help our students to develop their listening skills? Mayang mentioned right at the beginning about developing listening skills and talking about what we can do in the class as well as what we can do at home. So let's go back to Thailand and B. Can you share some of your ideas when you're working with your primary young learners? What do you do to try to help them develop their listening skills?
Yeah, let me share the video.
Okay, sure.
ทักทายการทักทายที่เราเจอในชีวิตประจำวันก็ได้เรียนบางส่วนในห้องเรียนไปแล้วใช่ไหมคะก็จะมีการทักทายอยู่หลากหลายรูปแบบค่ะอย่างแรกเป็นการทักทาย Hi Hello ใช่ไหมคะส่วนข้อที่3ข้อที่4ข้อที่5จะเป็นการทักทายเหมือนกันแต่เราจะมีเวลาเข้ามาเกี่ยวด้วยอย่างเช่นสวัสดีตอนเช้าเวลาจะมีเข้าโรงเรียนมาสวัสดีตอนเช้าเราก็จะทักว่า Good morning นะคะ Good morning ครูบี Good morning ครูนิวแบบนี้นะคะส่วนถ้าเราเจอตอนกลางวันแต่เที่ยงเป็นต้นไปเนี่ยค่ะถึงประมาณ5 โมงเย็น4 โมงเย็นเราจะทักทายกันว่า Good afternoon Good afternoon นะคะครูบีเขียนคำอ่านไว้ให้ในใบงานของเด็กๆแล้วใช่ไหมคะส่วนข้อที่5ค่ะข้อที่5จะเป็นการทักทายกันตอนเย็นสวัสดีตอนเย็นอย่างเงี้ยนะคะเราก็จะทักทายกันว่า Good evening Good evening
This about my video that I made from my student.
Okay, and how do you what grade would your students be there?
This for grade 1, primary
That's
1.
primary 1. Okay. So how would you use that? Obviously, that's for an online class during COVID. So how would you use that video with your students?
I just a moment. In our school, primary 1 is the first year to study. So I use the short word or the short sentence with my student that you see from the video. That video made use of Thai language effectively because the most important that I want the student to understand is the target language and the meaning. And later they can listen my recording at home with their parent and can use the recording to complete the activity sheet.
Okay. Yeah, so I think later on we haven't got time to show it today, but later on you have some activity sheets, don't you, that the students use, and they kind of have a little exchange, little dialogue with maybe their friends or maybe their parents at home. Yeah, so some really nice ideas there. Very simple. Thanks, B. Let's move from primary to secondary. Dian, do you want to share some of your ideas, how you try to develop your students' listening skills?
Yes, David, I would like to overcome the challenges in teaching listening. Maybe I just need to force myself to try something new. And then in this webinar particularly, I would like to share one very interesting lesson that I think gave significant impact to my student. A friend of mine is a teacher in Malaysia, and she asked me to have a joint lesson with my students. So she said that the student had gone through this long period of distance learning during the pandemic, and they become bored. So why don't we add some color to our teaching routine? So I instantly said, yes, it's a great idea. So we should do that. So it would be interesting for the students. So I offered this program to my student, and surprisingly, David, they were less enthusiastic.
The students were less enthusiastic.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I offered them who would like to participate in this joint program between Malaysian and Indonesian students, they said, I don't think so. I'm not confident enough to speak in English. I'm afraid I couldn't understand what they were saying. So all those kind of reasons. So it took time for me to encourage my students. It's a precious opportunity. So you should join this program. So in brief, I managed to collect like 20 to 30 students to participate in this event. And during the event, they were divided into six breakout rooms. 4 students from Indonesia shared the same room with 4 students from Malaysia. And then they were forced to present something they have in their daily life, what is different from Indonesia with Malaysian students. So they were forced to speak in English. They were forced to listen to their friends from Malaysia, and they tried to ask some questions. They answer some questions. So let me share the documents. So we call the program Borderless Friendship.
Right.
So they can actually listen to authentic English. And at the end of the program, I asked some feedback from the students, and it was nice to see how they changed their perspective. From the beginning, they were reluctant, they were not confident, but then in the end, they gave very precious feedback. They said, this activity made me realize that I'm not the only one struggling during this hard time. Now I feel less lonely. And then the other student said, to be honest, at first I was very nervous when I tried to talk to Malaysian student, but now I'm not nervous anymore. Thank you for designing this activity. And then the other said, I don't feel confident with my English. It's always the biggest problem in students' part. I don't feel confident with my English, but now I enjoy talking and listening in English. I learned a lot from this program. Thank you so much. And they can make a lot of new friends. They talk to Malaysian students in Insta. So David, it gave me new experience as a teacher. It's It's very nice, and I would like to share it with my friends here. Maybe we should try this in regular basis. So it was nice to see. I get to know Mayan and then B from Thailand. Maybe we can do this sometime. Maybe we have joint program between Indonesian students and Thailand students, Thai students, and with Vietnam students. It would be very interesting.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for sharing that. I love that idea as well, especially because, as both Mayang and Kay were saying before, again, in our region, when we're speaking to each other from different countries, between Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, the common language is English, but everybody speaking is a non-native speaker of English. So giving your students those opportunities to listen to each other and speak to one another is a great way. As you say, they started off quite reluctant and quite resistant to the idea, but once they were exposed to it and they saw, as you said, that their fellow students in another country had similar challenges,
the first
similar
step
issues.
is always the hardest step.
Yes, very good point. Yeah, that's a really nice idea. Thanks for sharing that, Dean. Thanks. And let's go to Mayang. Can you share some of your, again, the same question? Obviously, you're working mainly with students, with kind of university students, and with adults, through your teacher training. So different from B, who's working with primary children, or with Dian, who's working with teenagers and secondary age students. But again, what are some of the ways in which you help your students to develop their listening skills or to practice their listening skills?
Okay, before sharing, I really appreciate Diane's ideas, and maybe we can do it later after webinar, okay?
Yeah.
So back to David D's question, to have students develop their listening skills and strategy, I want to emphasize the importance of intensive and extensive listening. Well, there are different types of listening practice that focus on different skills. To get the maximum benefit, language students need to do both types of listening. In case that you don't actually know what is intensive listening and extensive listening, I'm gonna go deeper into the definition and how we can have this. For listening, intensive listening, it focuses primarily on brief listening exercises. And when you do intensive listening practice, you are paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, rather than overall meaning. So by focusing on these aspects, intensive listening practice will help our students to build a groundwork for language acquisition. And since our students are understanding basic component parts of the language, they can build on these skills over time. So because it serves to have listener understand key foundation aspect of language, intensive listening is particularly important for beginning and intermediate students. So you can do intensive listening practice in the class. You can design guided activities that force our students to focus on basic parts of the language. And for example, they can ask them to listen to a recording and do the guided exercises. So it will have our students to focus more on the structure and the vocabulary. They need to listen to the details, and they need to be really focused to the listening activity. But intensive listening is not enough. Listening inside the classroom with the exercises is not enough. We need extensive listening. So extensive listening focuses on longer activities, and rather than focusing on individual parts, it focuses on overall understanding. And our students don't have to translate every word, focus on grammar rules. Instead of that, they simply have to try to understand the audio or the video as a whole. So it will help our students to understand spoken language in the real world context. And this one is really important for intermediate and advanced students who are looking to transition from academic understanding of the language toward full fluency or to the real life activity. So I have some suggestions for extensive listening practice. So maybe at first you can ask your student to listen to the audiobooks. So beginners might try children's books, which will use a more limited vocabulary. But for intermediate students, they can try short story, which are less overwhelming than full-length books. Or for advanced students, they can enjoy all types of audiobooks that they like. Or maybe they can watch, okay, yes.
No, I was going to add, before you
Yes.
go on, Maya, I'm just going to add one
Okay.
idea as well. My colleague from British Council Indonesia, Column, is also, I think he's still on the webinar. So he's got another thing he suggests, as well as audiobooks, is listening to podcasts as well.
Yeah.
So again, if you've got any recommendations, I mean, hopefully Colin can write in the chat. He's got 1 or 2 suggestions, and that's very similar to that idea about some longer extensive listening that students can listen to. Sorry, Ryan, continue.
Okay. Yeah, great idea. I forgot to mention the podcast. And or maybe you can ask students to watch authentic media, watch movies, TV, other entertainment is useful for extensive listening. Maybe you in Vietnam, you in Thailand, or you in Indonesia, but you can get access to the internet and you can live the life of American English people in Vietnam, like, right? So
yeah,
if you have any trouble finding authentic media in your target language, I mean in English, so YouTube is a great website for you, so you can buy everything there.
yeah, thanks, Maya. And it's really good that you talked about that, the difference between like intensive listening, which might be sort of short listenings in the class, versus more extensive listening. And I think that's not just for intermediate and advanced level students, but even for children as well. So for example, for B, I mean, she might show a short video or a song or a cartoon, which for a child, for a kind of a young learner, would be an example of extensive listening. I can see lots of comments coming in the chat, and also a few questions coming in the Q&A as well. So we'll come back to some of those later. But B, before we move on to our final question, I saw one of the questions in the chat, so I can't remember who it was now, was asking you about any useful activities to help you with your primary students. So B and K, if you got any ideas in answer to that question.
Yeah, B. I think it's a cabbage peeling and slap the board thing from the bootcamp project, right? That B worked with her students. B, you want to share with our
Tanwara, I think it's Tanwara Kaur, I can't see the full name. Can you recommend some listening activities that are effective for primary school students?
B, can you
Before the pandemic, I designed the activity based on the student need. Like they like to play games, so I choose the paper cabbage, like this one. Feel like playing football game, but student can ask and answer the question by peeling paper, like you peel cabbage layer. And someone asked the question and someone answered the question. Like, excuse me, David, can I peel this paper?
Please.
Yes. And where are you from, David?
I'm from Manchester in England.
Be like this.
Okay.
Okay. So then,
some more interactive, communicative.
Yes.
Asking and answering.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
And
did the children enjoy that, Kay?
Yeah, well, when we have a look at the like how the teacher, like B and students working together, it's really like really cute and warm and fun. But B also used that slap the board, but she adapted some parts of the game. So do you want to
Okay.
explain a little bit more? Is that okay?
Let's move on because I'm just keeping my eye on the time because I want to make sure we can finish on the hour,
Or maybe
because we only have an hour.
yeah, maybe
But,
later.
yeah. Let's move to my last question before we go to the Q&A, and thanks everyone for putting your comments and questions in. Is for our teachers. I want you to share, if you can, your 3 top tips for teaching listening. And let's start with Dian. So if you would giving some recommendations to your fellow secondary teachers of teenagers, what would be your 3 top tips for teaching listening?
3 top tips for both the teachers and the students, right, David?
Yeah.
So the first one, perhaps I would like to encourage my colleagues to be participate in a teacher community, so we can share. It's strongly motivated if you are included in a teacher development group, because if we don't have such kind of community, we tend to do things similar things over and over again. But when we have a group of teachers that can share their best practice, so you will be inspired every once in a while, and then you are eager to try something that works for the other teachers. I would like to try it in my classroom. So I encourage all the teachers to participate in a teacher development group. And then perhaps we need to force ourselves as a teacher to step out of our comfort zone, because when we are not familiar with listening, we are afraid with the accent, the pronunciation. So we don't try new things. So we need to step out. It's a wonderful word out there. So brace yourself and have a courage to step out. And then
so a bit like when you encouraged or pushed your students
right,
to join the borderless friendship group.
It takes a lot of time, but then it's worth it, because unfortunately our primary students normally here for the past few years, they don't receive English as the main subject in the primary school. So when they go to secondary high school, it's the first experience for them to learn English.
So it's even more challenging in Indonesia.
That's right. So we need to give them a interesting learning experience.
Yeah.
So not to discourage them from learning English. And then for the students, for my students, beloved students all over Indonesia, be confident. Your voice is to be heard. Okay, so most of my students always said, I'm not confident, I'm afraid to speak in English, I'm afraid I will be bullied because my English is not that good. It's like, shut up, your English is not good. So they were always afraid to receive such a reaction. So I just want to encourage my students, be confident.
Yeah,
you are wonderful. Try to speak in. It's not our language, so it's it's okay to make mistakes. Do not be afraid to make mistakes.
I think that's really good advice at the end there, Dean. We often say as teachers, be confident, try and be confident. But sometimes that's quite difficult. I think for us as teachers, what we need to do is make sure that we encourage our students to don't be afraid of making mistakes. Right. No one is going to tell you off or bully you or embarrass you if you make a mistake. In fact, the opposite, you should be rewarded for trying.
Right.
Exactly.
But to grow such confidence takes time. So
yeah, brilliant.
Probably it doesn't work within 1 or 2 or 3 years, but maybe when they go to the next level of the education, they will be confident enough.
Yeah, and it's again, as I'm listening to you, Dean, as well, I'm looking at the comments in the chat, and there's some really positive comments. People are taking on board all your advice from you, as well as K, B, and Mayang. So it's really nice to see. Thanks, Dean. Let's go to K and B. What about same question? What would be your top tips for teaching listening to primary children, to young learners?
Yeah, well, I would say thinking about reconceptualization of the diverse varieties of English in our listening texts. Like when designing a listening activity, we may consider asking ourselves like the 3 questions, like first, is it possible to expose students to the varieties of English that they are likely to encounter in their daily life? I mean, with the primary learners, we should prepare them, right? Because intercultural communicative competence should be the key focus. And the second question, we should go like, can we make ways for promoting the diversity of English through the localized context? I see some comments from the chats like, is it okay if I use like native language in listening?
I saw that. I saw that in the chat.
Well, if we think about localized context, like embrace our own mother tongue, but use it effectively, like we just introduced you guys, like you can make ways for the students to learn how to shuttle appropriate use of both their mother tongue, their native tongue, to English in the communicative context. And the third question, the last one would be, are we the role model of multilingual English teachers? Because if we're still using only standard English, then no changes, right?
No, I think that's a really good point about your first point as well, Kay, about exposing students at any age, primary, secondary, or adults, to the varieties of English, and that includes the varieties of English across our region, here across ASEAN and across Asia more generally. So rather than relying on what a native speaker or a standard, what's traditionally seen as standard English, and getting away from that, and that's really important. And lots of opportunities for them to speak and listen. Again, I saw some of the questions, or some of the comments in the chat, and one of the questions I think we'll address in just a few minutes as well is asking that about the relationship between speaking and listening. So we can come on to that in just a moment. And before we go to the Q&A, Mayang, what about you? What would be your 3 top tips? Thanks, Kay. What would be your 3 top tips for teaching listening?
Okay, so the first one should be like teachers try to pair intensive and extensive listening when you teach this important communicative skill. So and the second one is you can use music in your class, and you can use it for either intensive and extensive listening, which will properly, it will be properly music to your ears. If you want to use English for intensive listening, so you can ask students to pay carefully attention to the lyrics and how they work together, note the structure of each phrase, or you can easily switch to using music for extensive listening. Simply direct your student attention to understanding the overall meaning of the song. So music is kind of like relaxing. It happens to study and also relax at the same time. And one last advice is try to use as many authentic materials and situation as possible in classroom and also outside classroom. So we'll have to prepare our students for the types of listening that we'll need to do when using the language outside the classroom. So that's it.
Thanks, Matt. And that goes back to exactly what Kay was just saying as well about listening to varieties of English, and what Dean was saying before about, for example, in Bandung, there may not be too many kind of foreigners there, but you want to expose them to different types of Englishes. And it's great to see some of the comments as well in the chat about world Englishes, global Englishes. So it's great to see us thinking about that and getting away from native speaker or standard English, which we won't hear so much of in this part of the world. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Now it's time to go to the Q&A. And I can see a number of questions. I don't know if my colleagues Book and Maria, are you going to help me to choose some questions, or do you want me to choose some from the Q&A?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Book. Yeah,
it's Book, so I'm from Thailand. I think
Hi,
most
Book.
of the questions have already been been answered or covered already, but I found one question just coming in from anonymous attendee. And that person is asking, do you have any strategy to share for teaching listening using video for high school students? I find that teaching listening using video more interesting for them, yet sometimes I found it confused to decide which strategy fit the classroom. Thank you.
Thanks. Would anybody like to try and answer that question? Maybe Dian, have you tried using a video with your high school students? You're on mute, Dian.
I tried using the video, but not for teaching listening. I try to make them conclude what is the video about and then share how is it related to your life. So I think there is no one right or wrong strategy for using video. You need to set the clear objective for the student. What do you want your students to be able to do at the end of the lesson? Once you are clear with the objectives, then you need to browse for the suitable video that can help the student to reach the objective. And then perhaps setting up the task for the student or for your student. Now, I think some of the attendees also give links to the materials that we might use, and perhaps British Council can provide the list for the participants to use at in the end in their classroom.
Yeah, afterwards I'll share with you a link, or maybe my colleague's column book, or Maria can share as well the link to some of the Learn English websites that we have, where we have lots of resources, including videos for primary, Learn English Kids, for teenagers, Learn English Teens, or for adults, the Learn English site as well. And there's lots of useful resources there, including some videos. What about Mayan K, P? Have any of you used video to help your students develop their listening skills, and how have you found that?
Okay, in my case, I often use the videos to teach my student listening skill, because I think it's quite interesting to let them to listen from the video instead of just listen to the audio, because they can learn from the way our native speaker use the body language and the facial expression. So it's really important for speaking skill as well. So when I teach our students using that types of the video, I will set a purpose, or like I will explain, like give them the reason why they need to listen to the video, and decide whether any linguistic or background knowledge is needed, so they can be prepared before listening to the video. They can be prepared for the general idea and the language as well. And and we can have some predictions at first. And,
I think that's a good point. It's the same any kind of listening, particularly if we're doing it in class, where you might want to do the kind of the pre stages before you get to the while listening or while watching a video, and then think about some post stages as well. We can use the same kind of pre, while, and post structure for using video in the class to develop listening skills, as well as using audio in the class. K, P, anything you'd add from your experience to that question?
Well, I would recommend using TikTok video. Like we're talking about non-native English speaking, right?
Great idea.
So there are a lot of video like makers who try to promote like Singlish, Minglish, or Tinklish in a really funny way, and I think you can choose the students level, and design the activities based on the TikTok videos. You can just like type some kind of Minglish or Singlish stuff like that. I think it will be fun for your class.
Okay, and maybe they can do that in the class or at home as well. B, were you going to add something with thinking about working with primary learners?
For me, I try to find some video from YouTube to be pre-listening for my student before they start the lesson. Like student will study about part of body, so I will find the song about body to give them to hear the word before they start learning. Yes, you like that. Children need to.
I love that. Some of my favorites with primary learners. Even with adults, you can still do that. It's a great way to the vocabulary, the actions, the TPR, and the listening all combined. That's always a fun one. Okay. All right. I think we're going to have to move. There's lots of questions starting to come in now, but unfortunately, I'm just keeping my eye on the time. We only have 10 minutes left. We could spend all the afternoon and evening discussing your questions, but if we've got time, we'll come back to them. So thanks very much, and please keep putting your comments in the chat as well. I can see my colleague Colin making some points there as well for you to consider. Now I'm going to try and share my screen. Yes. Oh, can you see my screen? Not yet. Hold on. Where's the share screen? Okay. Voila. Okay. So yeah, so we've done the Q&A already. Yeah. So thanks everyone for your questions. So yes, so now just before, in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can join this free course if you're interested to learn more about how to teach listening, no matter who you're teaching. As I say, you can find this course on Teaching English. You can, if you have, you can look at the QR, use your phone, and you can get the QR code off the screen now. Through the course, you can also join some a Facebook group, a community of practice, which Dian mentioned before. There'll be some Facebook Live events where they'll discuss different aspects of teaching listening, the same as we've done this afternoon. And at the end, you can also receive a British Council certificate. And to enroll on the course is completely free of charge. The course started last Tuesday, and it lasts for 4 weeks. So you've still got plenty of time to join. And there are 3 modules, and you can take them at your own pace, at your own time. And it should take about 12 hours of study time in the 3 weeks that are remaining. So what I'd like to do now is hopefully, I'll stop sharing my screen, and hopefully B and K, are you going to show us how to enroll on the course?
Okay, let me share the screen for you then.
Brilliant.
Well, can you see now? No? Yes?
Not yet, no.
There's something wrong. B, can you can you share though?
Let me try.
That's okay. We've got some time, so it's okay.
Well, in reality,
It's coming up. There you go. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so again, you're looking at for everybody. Just go onto the Teaching English website. If you just put in Teaching English in Google, it's always the first website that pops up. Yeah. And yeah, someone's put the link. Thank you. Someone's put the link. Gumawang Jati has put the link in the chat. Thank you for that. So how do you, can you show us, B, how would you enroll on the course?
Like about this?
Yeah, so you've got you can see the 3 modules there. So yeah, understanding listening skills, active listening, and then listening strategies. Okay, but if you just go up to where it says enroll on the course.
Oh, enroll on this
course. Yeah, the blue. And if you click on that.
Okay.
And it should take you. Hopefully, it will take you.
Okay. And put.
Okay. So now, if you're not already registered, you can create a new account, or are you already a member? Are you already registered, B?
Oh, I don't have.
You don't have. Okay. So then, yeah, you click on create new accounts, and
Yes.
then you can put in your name
Uh-huh.
and your email address. And then just confirm your email address in the next box. Very good. Excellent. Copy and paste. I like that.
Okay.
And then
And password.
A password. Oh, good. It's secret. Nobody. I was going to say otherwise.
Okay.
That's okay. It's okay. It's still secret. Nobody can see. Only you know what your password is.
Oh.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Yeah, we have to repeat that.
Okay. The next
Brilliant.
one.
Yeah, and that's the password matches. If you want to register for it, so maybe for you, you can register for the Teaching English Teachers newsletter. Yeah.
Okay.
Now it matches. Okay, good.
The next one.
That's up to you. You can do that later. You can register later if you want, or you can register now. Okay.
Okay.
And then at the bottom, I think you just need to put in your name.
Given name. Sorry.
That's okay. It's up to you. You can put any. You can put anything. So that's your given name, your first name there, and then your family name, and then Thailand.
Yeah.
And then I think you should be very close to joining the course.
And the next one.
Yeah, next one. I think we just scroll down. Yeah, just click and say that you're not a robot. Very good. I think that's right. Oof, so many pictures for you to look at.
Okay. Create new account.
I think so. And then it's signing. It should sign you up and take you. Yeah. And now it should take you immediately to the course. I think. If you go down. So now if you go to the course. If you go back to the
this one.
No, not this one. No. If you go back to the home page. Yeah. And then back on the home page, you should see training, I think. If you go to the top.
Go to top.
Yeah. You see training.
Training.
On the right-hand side here.
Yes.
No, yes, that one. See, now it says click on there, how to teach listening.
Oh my God.
Here. First one.
This one.
Yes, that one. And now if you go and if you go back to, maybe click on there, it should take you there, I think. Or you can click on enroll on the course and you can log in.
Wow.
Not yet. No, if you go to the top, you click on enroll on this course again.
Okay.
Good. Now you have to. So now you have to join the course. So click on the dashboard.
Dashboard.
Join.
It's okay.
Dashboard.
Is that the top?
No, at the top.
The top. Dashboard.
Yeah.
Oh.
And maybe so at the moment it says you don't have any courses. So now explore all courses.
Okay.
There you go. How to teach listening.
Okay.
Enroll in activity.
Yay.
Okay, successfully enrolled. So there you go. So,
see you there, B.
okay. So now you can see on the right hand side on oh no, that's an old course for March. But once you click on here, if you go back,
Okay.
all right,
Yeah.
you should be able to see there you go. So now you can see the 3 modules, yeah. So you can start you can in your own time now. You can start to go through the different modules step by step. Okay. All right. Brilliant. So hopefully that's that little. It took us some time, but don't worry. That's the whole point, is to show everybody how easy or how challenging it is. So first you have to enroll. So first you have to register on Teaching English, but it's free of charge. And once you've registered, then you can log on very easily onto the course.
The first step is always the hardest.
Exactly.
Again.
All right. So thanks very much for sharing that with us, B, and I hope you'll enjoy the course. We've just got a few minutes. It's 5 o'clock, but if you just bear with me just a couple more minutes, I'm just going to show you what's coming up in December. So for those of you in Indonesia, you may already know that we have the Saturday Tech Talk series. There was number 4, I think, was on Saturday. Number 3, sorry, and then in 2 weeks' time, on Saturday, the 4th of December, will be the 4th one in the series. So again, if you have your phone, you can just use the QR code there to access. And my colleague Maria will put in the chat. She'll also put the link to the course there if you want to just follow the website. This ASEAN Teacher Webinar Series, we have the next one is coming up on 4 weeks' time, on Tuesday, the 14th of December. And the topic will be gender in language education. And I won't be moderating, Colin won't be moderating, but our colleague, Miss Maria, will be moderating that webinar. So we're looking forward to that. And again, you can use the QR code there, or the link will go into the chat in just a moment. And 2 more things. I can see some people asking about certificates. I'm going to tell you about the certificates in just a minute, so don't worry. Okay. Also in December, we have our New Directions conference, which is looking at language assessment and the future of language assessment. And that is for teachers, researchers, lecturers across East Asia. So you can join there. Again, you've got the QR code on the screen. And here in Vietnam, in 4 weeks' time, on Saturday, the 18th of December, you can join our Partners in Innovation webinar series. We had our first one on Saturday, and our next one is in just under 4 weeks' time, and we'll be looking at the Digital English Theatre Project, which is from the Mekong Delta, with one of the partners, Hands Up, who just won the Elton at the Elton Awards in London last weekend. Okay, so those are some things that are coming up over the next few weeks. And before we finish, people are asking about the certificates. So if you look on here, on the left-hand side, you've got the QR code to give us your feedback. What did you think about today's webinar? And if you give us your feedback, then we will send you, or you will automatically receive the link to create your own e-certificate on the right-hand side there for you. So hopefully that's an incentive for you to give us some feedback, either using the QR code or using the link that should be in the chat for you now. Okay, yeah, and Maria's also put the link in. Thank you, Maria, for the 4th episode or 4th edition in our series, ASEAN Teacher Webinar Series. Okay, it's great to see so many people. I think we're up to 360 people now watching on Zoom. I don't know how many are watching on YouTube. But wherever you are, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And before we finish, a big thank you to our panel of teachers for sharing their experience. So thank you from Indonesia, Diane. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, is that right? Okay.
Sama-sama, David.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Khop Khun Kap to B and K in Thailand. Thank you very much. Khop Khun Kap. And Mayang, all the way down in Ving. Cảm ơn rất nhiều.
Okay.
And goodbye. All right. All right. Thanks, Maya. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all your time this afternoon. And hopefully you enjoyed the webinar, and good luck enrolling on the listening course. And I hope you'll enjoy the listening, the How to Teach Listening course on teaching English over the next 3 weeks. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you, or you'll see my colleague Maria in just 4 weeks' time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
Bye. See ya.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye, Kai.